Finding Hope, the Road to Recovery.
Hello, everyone. This is the third season of Finding Hope to Recovery. Today, joining me from Tarzana Treatment Centers, two of our current residential patients, Graham and Brittany. How are you guys?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing very good.
I'm doing really great. I want to first and foremost say, this is a really special experience for me because I brought you in because I wanted to have an authentic dialogue about the treatment experience. But also I want to add that inviting the two of you today also means that when someone gets to watch this episode, they'll also get inspired by the two of you, because it has been one of the most rewarding experiences watching the two of you grow in your recovery. And I really, really mean that. So I'm really grateful to have both of you on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's kick this off.
Okay.
Graham,
Ready.
let's start with you.
Let's get it.
How are you?
Very good. I'm very happy to be here. The opportunity to kind of share our story of our treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about what brought you into treatment.
So I've been struggling with alcoholism for about 10 years. 2 years ago, when my alcoholism got pretty bad, I started losing relationships. It just wasn't, my health was deteriorating. I came out to California, to Covina, to sober living, just kind of fell into my lap. And it was very good. I did very well with it. I dove right into the program of AA. I got a sponsor who's still my sponsor today. One of the best men I've ever met. And I was doing really well. I got 90 days of sobriety.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
That's really
that was
great.
really kind of the first time that I had gotten even a couple months of sobriety without having a drink.
That's huge.
That is
Yeah.
huge.
That's awesome.
It was great.
Yeah.
And then, I think subconsciously I was like, you know what, I'm ready. I can go back. So I moved back to Texas, and shortly I had about 6 months of sobriety before I picked up a drink again. And at first it wasn't anything like it was before. I kind of drank like a gentleman, special occasions every now and then. And then, it just took one major event to fall right back into the depths of alcoholism that I was used to. So I figured it's time to go back out to where I got sober the first time and try again.
Yeah.
And so I did. I went back to the same sober living in May of 2024, and the same thing happened. I dove right back into the program, started doing really well, and then I got a really good job, and I started doing less of my program and more work, and thinking that having 80 hours a week as a job would keep me busy enough to keep me sober.
You were running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it had the opposite effect. It burned me out, and I wasn't working my program. So that really made me start to falter. And I relapsed, went to a different sober living in Pomona, but it was just, rinsing and repeating.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I built a really nice relationship with the manager of the last sober living I was at, and unfortunately he had to, he caught on that I was drinking, and he had to let me know I had to leave. And so I went to a detox program in Covina. I had never done detox before. I had just detoxed by myself.
That's dangerous.
Very,
Yeah.
and painful.
Yeah, I
with
imagine.
no help, yeah. And so partway through my detox, I realized what I've been doing isn't working for long-term sobriety. So I needed to try something that I hadn't done before.
And what wasn't working exactly?
Doing it basically on my own,
Yeah.
white knuckling it when I should have been, going to meetings or reaching out.
Yeah.
Instead, I was just buckling down and throwing myself into work, and really pretending my way through the program.
I always tell people this program is not designed to do alone.
Yeah.
So I just really needed you to emphasize that,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't do it on my own, But yeah, one of my sponsee brothers told me about Tarzana, and it was a residential treatment program. And I was like, let's do it. I'm going to try it because I want to be sober. I don't like drinking. I really never liked drinking.
Yeah.
It was just a self-medication thing.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
But that's what brought me to Tarzana, and I can't be any more grateful for the opportunity to be here.
So Tarzana is your first residential program.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
First. Yep.
Good for you, and you're doing so well.
Thank you.
I'm really proud of you.
Yeah, no, Tarzana has really given me a lot of tools that I really didn't have before.
Yeah.
So
it's really rare to see, but I've definitely noticed the sort of psychic change within you from the first day that you arrived until today.
Yeah.
So it's just powerful to see, really.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right, Brittany. So what was kind of the turning point for you?
Okay, so for me, the turning point's like a two-part thing. I'll give a little bit of background. I am a vicious alcoholic. I only relapsed. This past relapse was like for a month, but I'll give you where it ended me up. I ended up getting robbed. I got shot.
Wow.
And then I was left in an abandoned house that I was drinking in with a few people that I probably would not have trusted.
Yeah.
And immediately after that, I, from the hospital, went to jail because I was connected. I fit the description of somebody who had committed a crime a month and a half before. And so through all of that, I was still in contact with my sponsor because I was like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Like, I need help. So we started working through the steps. I got through, I think, maybe 1 through 3. And this realization happened where the turning point, and I didn't realize it at the time, was when I was in the hospital getting treated for the bullet wound. My thinking was, okay, I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna go back to that spot because I know I left a bottle there and I know my stuff is there.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, that's a level of insanity
Sure.
that this disease brings, right?
And your bottom can get so much lower than you expect it to be. You know what I mean? It's
Very
so much
true.
lower than you
Yeah.
think it's gonna be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It's
honestly.
terrifying, yeah.
But that was my turning point because that realization was very confronting. That realization honestly was life-changing for me because I was like, I need help. That's not a good line of thinking. Like there's a disconnect somewhere. And I kind of need to figure out, how to do and how to think on better terms.
Yeah, because the disease can be, as the big book says, cunning, powerful, baffling.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, and talk about demoralization, spiritual bankruptcy, right? I mean, I'm sure both of you can relate to that. I can relate with that.
100%.
So I'm just so grateful that both of you were able to make it to treatment. I mean, it's incredible. And both of your stories is truly, truly very powerful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Of course.
this is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about some of the misconceptions of addiction, only because, it creates stigma, it creates shame, right?
Yes,
and these are the very things that make it very difficult for individuals to seek help, right?
Yeah.
And, while the general public, contributes to that stigma, but the three of us have also talked about how we as addicts and alcoholics, those who struggle with addiction also contribute to that stigma.
For sure.
And I've shared with both of you, early in my recovery program, I would walk into, my very first AA meeting, and I was like, I'm not like them.
Right.
I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not an addict.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Right, like that. I haven't done that yet. So yeah.
And the unfortunate thing about that is that's the disease. Like that is when we go into those meetings and we have that inner voice that's telling us, run. Like this is you're not like these people. You have it under control.
Yeah.
And then it just sends us right back into our addiction and alcoholism.
Yeah. So misconception number 1. Addiction is a choice. Many people believe that addiction results from weak willpower or a lack of morale, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do we feel about that?
For me, I didn't realize that I even had a problem until 8 years into my alcoholism. You know, I thought everybody else drank like me. You know, and then slowly people, family and friends started to tell me like, hey, you need to take it back a bit with your drinking. Which in my head I would say, okay. But I would take it back when they were around. But when they weren't around, I would drink the same way that I did before. And it wasn't even a conscious thought. When I would tell them, okay, yeah, I'll dial it back, I was just like naturally sneaky and manipulative to drink the way I wanted to drink, which the only way I knew how to drink was as much as possible to just, you know, block out childhood trauma, you know, anxiety, depression, all of those things. And, you know, the thing with alcohol is it is a depressant, so it's feeding into all the reasons why I was drinking in the first place.
And, you know, knowing the two of you, imagining a world where you're both lying and manipulating either to yourself or to somebody else, I mean, it feels unfathomable, right? But the thing is that's what the addiction does.
100%.
I don't believe that either one of you or myself, you know, to your authentic core, is someone that would truly do that or engage in those behaviors. You know what I mean? You're both really, really good people.
Thank
you know,
you.
I know that. And so that leads me to my other misconception number 2. People struggling with addiction can quit anytime they want. So I want to add to that before we get into it.
Sure.
We now know that anyone struggling with severe addiction, what it does is it hijacks the front of your brain, right? Your prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of behavior regulation, impulse control, and decision making. Right?
Absolutely.
So the very idea that people think that it's just a matter of willpower. You know, that's why people who struggle with addiction lie and manipulate. You know, it's not as simple as, oh, they're justifying their behavior.
100%.
You know, the compassion and empathy comes from, you know, the brain chemistries change.
100%.
We change entirely, spiritually, emotionally, physically, psychologically.
100%.
It's not a black and white answer.
Correct,
So I'd love to get your feedback on that and why these factors made it hard to, you know, seek help and get the, you know, treatment that you needed.
Well, if I may.
Go.
My personal experience with just being able to stop whenever you want doesn't necessarily make sense for the level of like where I was with my alcoholism. So I think there's not that much of a normalization in terms of conversation that looks like, okay, again, here's like the physical part of what happens. Like if one was to just stop, it could be like a lot of health problems that arise from that, right? So like when I first was trying to get sober, my body shut down. I had liver and kidney failure because my body was so addicted and did not know what to do without alcohol. Like it became dangerous. When I was calling rehabs trying to get in, they were like, yeah, don't stop drinking. Don't try not to get drunk, but like you need to be able to keep up a certain level until we can bring you in and put you on a medication, you know, treatment or
you become dependent on it.
Exactly. You could have a seizure. Lots of things can happen.
DTs, hallucinations. Like it's not as simple as just stopping. I mean, I think if it was, like I don't think any of us would struggle as much as we do.
That's a big misconception in and of itself.
100%. Like I think maybe sort of at some point in the beginning, if we're using semantics, that first drink is a choice for sure. But after that, after the chemistry of your brain changes, after that obsession gets sparked, after there's like that physical dependence on it, it's no longer a choice. It's kind of, it's what you need to do in order to be able to maintain.
I mean, some of the most intelligent people in the world struggle with addiction. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's insane to think about. I mean, why would we want to lie to our families? Why would we want to get shot? You know, why would we want to hurt ourselves and those we love in the way that we do? It's insane to think about.
It is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times too, it's not presented as, okay, there's addiction, but a lot of the time addiction is concurrent with mental illness, right? So like if someone's trying to self-medicate, because a lot of us, like I've heard in the rooms, people being like, and that's when I realized that I had a problem, right? Is when I had that first drink because it made me feel comfortable. You know, it was a self-medication. And without an understanding of what's, you know, the turmoil that could come with it, of course someone's going to continue to do something
It's
that
hard
makes them feel
to be
good.
cognizant of it. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think sometimes like there is this accidental trapping when it comes to like being an addict or an alcoholic. Because you don't know right away. That's always something that's commonly talked about too. I don't know the moment that it changed, becoming, you know, a hobby to like an addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's just somewhere along the line it stopped becoming, you know, a good time and started to become a dependency.
Yeah.
Sure, I think that's when the addiction takes over.
Yeah.
And it's consuming.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. So I would like to know, for the viewer, what your experience was like in residential treatment. Talk to me about your day-to-day activities.
Sure. For my first week, to be completely honest, I isolated. You know, I did not know what to expect going into it. And then when I got there, it was a lot of people. Tarzana is one of the biggest residential treatment centers, not only in California, but, you know, a lot of America. So it was a lot of people, and I kind of isolated. I read like 4 books in my first week. But after that, when I started to participate in groups, there's 3 groups a day, and there's a morning focus group, and then you go to your 3 groups a day, and they're all based around recovery. Some are, you know, like the long-term effects of different drugs or alcohol on the body, and then some are codependency, because that really goes hand in hand with alcoholism and addiction.
100%.
But they're all very productive groups. And so I really didn't start coming out of my shell until I started participating in groups. And that led people to like open up conversations with me that, you know, they didn't do before because I was so withdrawn.
Yeah.
And then like there's the physical activities, which I really thrive off of. I'm you know, idle hands are the devil's work kind of guy. Like I have to be doing something. So, you know, we go play basketball every day, and then I go to the gym every day. And so the physical activities along with the groups and like all the other things that it offers, therapy, which I had never tried before, really, really helped as well. So really it's just like, it's a very structured melting pot of different things that are, you know, the goal is to live in recovery.
Sure.
And Tarzana really breaks down your day and makes it very simple for you. And they kind of set you up to where when you do graduate, when you do leave, you have all the tools and the foundations to continue your program, to continue living in sobriety.
So I want to get into that a little bit later in the show.
Sure.
But I want to ask you, how has Tarzana helped you really learn how to show up for yourself? Start with small and then get a little bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to grab that?
Sure. I think it's just like, again, the small stuff, the subtle nuances, right? So like, even though it may not be viewed like this, even like the practice of making your bed every day.
Yes.
It builds a little bit of confidence, right? It's something to show up for. And in the beginning, I'm gonna be honest, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to show up even to do the small stuff just because like the things that we carry with us when we go into treatment, whether it's things that we've done or things that have been done to us, it's overwhelming.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah.
So like starting those small practices and then gaining confidence in those so that you can add to like the other practices. Like I now in the morning, I do like a little spiritual focus for myself.
I love that.
Yeah, I read from the daily reflections. I write a page about how I feel about it, how I relate to it, how I think it's nonsense, whatever, just to kind of see where I'm at. And then I write a gratitude list and I set an intention for the day. But those things I don't think I would have been able to get to or do if I didn't first have like those small practices implemented. Because if you can't show up for the small stuff, like the big stuff, it's like, how do you get there, right? It seems impossible.
Building a foundation for sure.
And
Absolutely.
I love that
With the
saying,
small things.
suit up and show up, right?
Yeah. One of the supervisors, she says in regards to the making your bed, messy beds, messy heads.
Oh yes, you're referring to Judy Lux.
Judy Lux.
And at first I was like, oh my gosh, that is so just cliche, and then but you know, as you progress through treatment, you really understand it. It sounds goofy, but it's true. Like,
it is absolutely 1,000%
messy
true.
heads. You start the day, you make your bed, and when you're ready to go to bed at night, your bed's made. You know,
we take those little things for granted when we're in our addiction. So in
100%.
little ways, more than one, we learn how to really show up for ourselves, and it's important. It really is important.
100%.
Absolutely. It's also humbling, right? And like to be humble is to like be able to build gratitude.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Graham, I want to start with you. What aspects of the treatment program have been the most helpful to you?
Definitely fellowship. You know, going through this with other alcoholics and addicts is really, really important because, you know, like our families and friends outside who we would consider normies don't understand maybe as well as people that have been in addiction and been in alcoholism. So definitely going through the treatment with other like-minded people that have been through it. You know, I heard a speaker at a meeting say spirituality is for people who have been through hell.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me. That was just something that stuck with me and still sticks with me. So yeah, my peers is a big part. Therapy was huge for me as well. Yeah, and I think the staff as well, because you have your peers and they understand what you're going through, but a lot of the staff have also dealt with addiction and alcoholism, and so they know where we're at. They know that we're still, you know, kind of sitting on pins and needles and white knuckling it and stuff. And they're very compassionate and very kind.
I think that's what I love about working in this field is that you're right. There are a lot of people working that understand what you've gone through lived-in experiences, and so that sort of advocacy comes at a different level. You know, and I really do appreciate that about working in the mental health field.
Yeah.
I want to go into, so this is fairly new, but the two of you are fellowship advocate leaders.
Yes.
So I want you guys to tell me a little bit, or tell the audience about what that entails and what that means for the residential program.
Yeah.
What is your job?
So the Fellowship Advocate, there was a program before this, and it wasn't really even a program. It was called the Big Brother, Big Sister thing. So when you would come in, you would go to your room, and they would say, hey, this is your roommate, he's going to show you around. And then that was pretty much it.
That was it, yeah.
So with the new Fellowship Advocate program, we are, we're exactly what it is, Fellowship Advocate. So we're advocating for these people that are coming in. We stick with them side by side for the first 24 hours, make them feel as comfortable as possible. We try to relate with them to let them know that they're not the only ones going through what they're going through. We get them set up with therapy, we go to the right channels to get them set up with classes and therapy that they want to get. Because when you first get here, you're very much on an island, it felt like. Because when I got here, I don't know, yours was pretty similar.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody. I didn't.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So,
There's just so many people.
Yeah.
So really the Fellowship Advocate program is to soften the landing
Yeah.
and make it more welcoming, less like, kind of like a jail sentence kind of thing, and more like just recovery, and you're here to get better and we're all going to do it together.
Yeah, remember Bill W., Creative Alcoholics Anonymous, didn't get sober through institutions. He got sober through fellowship.
Yeah.
And I love that quote from Johann Hari in his TED Talk where he talks about addiction. And he says, the opposite of addiction is connection. How powerful is that?
Yeah.
And so I know since we started the Fellowship Advocate program, because of the two of you and our Fellowship Advocate team, we've reduced the number of AMAs.
Yes.
Retention looks great. And most importantly, we get to see the newcomer feel safe again.
100%.
I mean, it is one of the most powerful things I've seen in a really long time, and it reminds me of why I work in this field. It's powerful. I love it.
Yeah.
And you guys could not have been more of a better example
Thank you.
to initiate this program. I'm so proud of this program, honestly.
Yeah, and we have really become the best of friends in this.
Absolutely.
She comes up with ideas that I would never think of in regards to the Fellowship Advocate program.
And vice versa.
Yeah. She picks up my slack where I'm slacking, and I try to do the same for her. And so we're very grateful that you chose us to kind of spearhead this thing, because we love it. We think it's super, super important.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's important work.
I kind of look at it like it's the difference between, like, we help introduce people to recovery, not just sobriety. Because sobriety is just the abstinence part. Like, okay, you're abstaining from drinking, you're abstaining from getting high, or like whatever, you're addicted to. And we really show them, like, no, we heal here. This is the healing side of it. This is the fun side of it. This feels like home part of it. Because it is scary. It is daunting. So we become that person that's like, hey, like, I'm going to show you how I healed. Come to this meeting with me. You know what I mean? We're like that soft introduction to the program. Like, hey, this is how I got help. Like, I came in a mess, but through, like, taking some suggestions, like get a sponsor, really try to maybe put a pen to paper just so you can start figuring out where you're at. So when you look back from, like, in 2 weeks, you'll see, okay, like, this was my train of thought then. This is where I'm at now. And like just being a friend and helping someone through that process, because we can't do this alone. I mean, even just like you said, Bill W., he leaned heavy on the fellowship, and he's, it's directed with the steps that, like, you go through it with another person that has, like, applicable knowledge through, like, their, lived experience.
Yeah, connection.
Exactly.
Fellowship. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's the connection part's important, right? Because if we don't connect with people, our peers, feel safe, we're going to connect with something else, which for me is like the bottle.
Yeah, and I always say the universal language of love is to be understood.
100%.
Right? How powerful is that you can go into any city in the world and go to an AA or an NA meeting, right?
Yeah.
And have family.
It's comforting.
Right? It's so comforting and it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And isolation is definitely an ally of alcoholism and addiction.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it's a killer for sure.
Yeah.
So, Graham, addiction is a family disease. One person may use, but the whole family suffers. Tell me what the response has been with your family before and after treatment.
Yeah, it's exactly like you said. For me, for the longest time, like I said, it was a decade of heavy alcoholism, and physically I was feeling it, especially in the last few years, but emotionally and spiritually, like, I was feeling pain, and I thought I was only doing it to myself. I didn't understand the fact that I was hurting my loved ones and my family, because they were watching me go through that. They were watching me suffer through that pain, but also the pain that I made them suffer through. I mean, it's it's the truth. I was vile. I would spew venom at the people I love the most while I was intoxicated or drunk.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to handle my own feelings or my own trauma. And that really, really kind of killed those relationships. My family, we used to be close, and now with, the way that my alcohol progressed and the way that I treated them, they had to distance themselves.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. I have a couple older sisters, I have a little brother, and I don't talk to any of them. That's unfortunately, that's what happens with our disease.
Yeah.
And I can only hope that in the future that those relationships are rekindled and
yeah, absolutely. And you're not alone there.
Yeah.
Most of the people that are watching right now can relate to your story.
Yeah.
When I got sober 10 years ago, all of my family and friends had shut me out. But it was actually the very thing I needed. From stopping the enabling and the co-signing, right? And I finally realized I needed to do this for myself.
Yeah.
So you're not alone. You're never alone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the best foundation is built on rock bottom.
Yeah.
And I have a 3-year-old son that I love my son more than I love anything in the world. And the longer I spend out drinking and feeding my alcoholism, the longer it's going to be before I can cultivate a loving relationship with my son. And that was one of the biggest eye-openers for me, turning points, if you will, for me.
And what about, how has Tarzana, and maybe you can answer this, how has Tarzana facilitated sort of this support system that you've connected with since you've gotten to residential? I mean, like I said, you're not alone, Graham. Most of us that come into treatment, we feel alone.
Yeah.
So how have we facilitated an environment where you can make new connections?
I think through a multitude of ways, right? So like with the group specifically, like a lot of the times, I like the way that they're set up. So like Graham touched on earlier, there's a lot of like educational pieces to it, right? But there's also discussion-based groups where like you can just put your feelings out there. You know what I mean? It's a safe place to kind of like open up, be vulnerable, which is extremely difficult.
Very.
Especially in early recovery. But you get met with, oh my God, like I've been through that too.
Yeah.
There's never any of the shame or the guilt that we carry around with us in those rooms.
There's usually always someone else that has experienced what you've gone through,
Exactly.
which is so powerful.
Yeah. And well, the powerful side of it is someone being like, well, thank you for opening up about that, because I was scared to say something, but then you said it and I was like, okay, cool. Like I can now tell my story because of, just hearing you. I mean, that's like one of the most beautiful things about Tarzana. The way that it's set up, and even recovery in general.
In general, yeah, absolutely.
Because it's always that same attitude, that same positivity.
And those connections you make in recovery are, you're making a new family.
Yeah,
100%.
Like you might come in with, you've ruined and burned down all the bridges that you have, friends and family. But when you leave treatment, if you put in 100%, you're going to leave with friendships and relationships. You're going to leave with a new family.
I always make this joke that, and there's some partial truth to this, you could go rob a bank and commit your worst crimes. And if you walk into an AA meeting, if you walk into treatment, people will greet you with open arms.
100%.
Right? There's that safety, there's lack of bias and judgment, because shame is so paralyzing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I love that about this program.
Yeah.
Is that, it's a judgment-free environment. So anyone can get help.
Yeah.
Right?
And we're prime examples. Like, we have become the closest of friends. Like, we are absolutely best friends. And, the fellowship advocate program definitely helped that. But just kind of, being able to relate to each other and recover at the same time. So really grateful to Tarzana for that,
Yeah, there's, if I may piggyback off that, there's something really powerful too about starting from like ground zero, that rock bottom, and like kind of being around people in the same position and then growing, right? Because like it's an experience that, like, for example, normies probably wouldn't don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's unparalleled, like the level of how much we lean on each other and the level of how much we grow from each other.
Yeah.
That happens.
What challenges have you faced during your recovery process, and what has helped you get past it?
Okay, so for me, a lot of trauma, a lot of depression, a lot of fatigue. When I came in, I had a lot of flashbacks pertaining to the incident where I got shot. And it was really helpful, you know, to be in a safe place, right? Like the therapy, the discussion groups, even just meeting with like my counselor and like my case manager, and just like, again, like you said, having people meet you with like open arms and being like, okay, like, yeah, that's a lot, but this could be different, you know?
Yeah.
Like here's some things that help me. Maybe, you know, they could help you. That was one of the biggest challenges that I think I had. That and like the ability to be vulnerable again, because I was coming from very dangerous situations. So the idea of even trusting myself, let alone another person, just seems like something I didn't want to do.
And what moment are you particularly proud of in your recovery?
Oh, that's easy. Being picked as one of the FAs, one of the first people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something extremely gratifying
Being
about
of service.
Yeah, because like I know how I was when I first came here, and I know like those, like even though small, those interactions where like it was just human to human.
Building on that connection.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Like, I wouldn't be right here if it wasn't for those moments. You know what I mean? The things that it taught me.
Yeah, and like I'm with her on that answer, but I also had a moment when I became an FA. It was actually the first gentleman I had. He was about 4 years younger than I am, and he came in and he was crawling in his own skin.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember that too.
He was broken.
He was very broken. You know, he wanted to get home to his family, but you know, I told him, like, I have your back.
Yeah.
I got you. Just, you know, we'll get through this together. And right before I left him for the night, you know, I told him, if you're thinking about leaving, go get a staff member, come find me, and if you feel comfortable talking to me about whatever it is, you can. And he did, and I told him, go to sleep, and I'll see you tomorrow. And I saw him the next day, and it was great to be able to like help himself.
Yeah.
You know, to realize me being here in treatment is going to help the long term, you know.
I remember that. I remember when you got him off the floor and we were walking back to my office.
Yeah.
Other FA members had walked by, and every single one of them just bear hugged him for 3-4 seconds. You know, talk about that vulnerability and connection. And it almost, you know, made me, it was like, you know, every single one of them stopped to embrace him and make him feel comfortable. And every single one of them said, I got your back. I mean, I'm telling you, it was one of the most incredible moments I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
You know, I really mean that. And it's because of the two of you. Really, really.
We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talk about it all the time of like how lucky we were to just be walking down the hallway one day, and you and the other supervisor, Judy, were like, hey, you two, get in the office. I was like, oh, we're in so much trouble.
Yeah.
And then you guys said, we want you to head up the Fellowship Advocate program. It is help. And the thing about this program is that it helps us just as much as it helps the new people.
Yeah.
100%.
Because it's that part of that triangle service. Like, giving back is so, you don't realize it until you start doing it. Yeah. How beneficial it is to your own recovery.
And you know where they've been.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
What advice do you have with someone who's struggling right now, watching this, who's ambivalent about coming into treatment? What advice do you have?
I would say, hold on. You know what I mean? You are not alone. yeah, it's scary, but like what you're going through is also scary. You know, like there's so much beautiful like things that happen, not only just like internally, but externally as well. You know, that fear, you get to let go of it. You get to explore it. You get to kind of put space between you and it. The obsession lifts, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to continue doing something you don't want to do. You get a choice. You get to be the person that you are, that you know you are, that you're afraid isn't there because you have been doing all of the things that in your mind you've told yourself make you a bad person. You are still alive. You are worth it. Like you are loved and you are love. Like do not give up.
I love that.
And I would say, just play the tape back. You know, think of where you're at now and where you've been, and all the pain that it's caused, and you know, look at treatment. Coming from someone that never did treatment before, and coming in not knowing what to expect, it can only benefit you. You aren't going to come into treatment and be worse off than if you didn't. And that addiction and alcoholism is a lonely thing.
It is.
And it's a slow killer, especially alcoholism. And it's one of the scariest, being sober, one of the scariest things is, you know, living alone in alcoholism and slowly deteriorating. So just, you know, take the step. Go try a residential treatment program. It seems scary, but it's not. It's really not.
Well, thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Graham. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
You know, I really mean that. And my final thought to anyone who's watching. Martin Luther King once said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to take the first step. If you're out there watching this right now, there is help available. Thank you for joining us today.
Brought to you by Tarzana Treatment Centers. You can visit our website at www.tarzanatc.org or call 1-800-996-1051.